Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. This will be the last day that we're on this backup channel. So hopefully Monday, we should be back on the main channel as our strike expires. So everybody's talking about this. We're going to call it Feign of Gunction research and the WUTANG lab, and how Fraud Chi didn't tell us the truth about what he knew that the WUTANG lab was up to, or might have been up to. So, what is Feign of Gunction research? Well, here it is right here. We're going to define this as we get into this show this Thursday morning. We're going to call Feign of Gunction, we're going to rename it FOG, F-O-G, FOG research, just so we can trip Al Gore's rhythms, right? So what is FOG research? Well, it's research that alters an organism or disease in a way that increases pathogenesis, transmissibility, or host range. In other words, making something unnatural in a lab. Now, this was banned in America. For those of you that are following FOG research, it was banned in America, outsourced to other countries, the WUTANG country in particular. And this was not a widely accepted theory that this was created in a lab as to how the Sharona escaped from the WUTANG lab. But now all of a sudden it's back in the mainstream. So you can imagine when I saw that the FOG research appeared as a main theme in the series Sweet Tooth, it caught my attention. So we did a part 1 decode on the first 3 episodes of Sweet Tooth a few days ago. So if you're a little bit lost, I'll try to catch you up, but definitely want to watch that part 1. This decode will be the second and final part. But let me give you a quick recap on the plot line of Sweet Tooth. Make sure you guys are with me, and we'll keep going with this as we check out this montage. Awesome. I think you guys are all here. Very good. All right. So what happens in Sweet Tooth? Well, there's this plague that comes over the earth, of course, right? That's why we're talking about this, because we're going through it right now. And about the same time that this plague overtakes the earth, every new baby that's born are all hybrid chimeras. They're half human and half animal. Now, Sweet Tooth, which is the story is based on him, is a half deer boy. And he leads this resistance to find his mother. Turns out, he finds out that his mother created him in a lab through FOG research. Now, he was the first. And then after that came all the other children that were born. Now, the series has yet to reveal how this all went down, how this FOG research ended up causing this sickness, or if it caused it at all, and how I keep wanting to call him Bluetooth, how Sweet Tooth fits into all this. But I guess we're going to have to wait for season 2. Now, the bad guys in this series, they hunt and track down all these hybrids for research to try to find a cure. Let's get into these last episodes here. Now, in the part 1 decode, we found out that harvested pineals and bone marrow from hybrids are what is used to make the cure. The cure is called secret sauce. Watch.
Go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Singh. You have a delivery at the clinic?
Secret sauce.
And while wickedness crawled the land.
Now, you heard her say the secret sauce, as a hybrid is like delivered to the clinic, and he's got to go pick it up to cure his wife who is sick. She has the sick. Now, what's the backstory with his doctor? Well, basically, his wife has the sick, and he's keeping it a secret from everybody, because if he doesn't, they do bad things to people who have the sick. And so he's trying to be an ethical doctor, but he realizes that he's going to have to carve out the pineal gland of this poor hybrid child to cure his wife. And he's struggling with it basically throughout the entire series. You guys, this is some sick stuff right here, because they're basically admitting everything we've been talking about. Now, if this was some other theory that we had talked about in our community that wasn't so dramatic and dark and evil, then you could say, okay, big deal. They're profiling theories in their work to make fun of us or to gaslight us. But this is dark. We're actually talking about human sacrifice here. Okay, and this isn't something you joke about, especially inside of a children's TV series. Lots of children are watching this, you guys. And this is how sick these people are. Let's keep watching.
And while
Now, every time that the sick comes to a community, and they're not really sure exactly how it transmits, but every time it comes to a community, these creepy purple flowers appear. Based on all the research we've done, we determined that these purple flowers and the color purple represents the red and blue blood mixed together, the interbreeding of the two races, the beast and the man. But what I noticed here was the doctor's address, which is number 77.
wickedness crawled the land, happily ever after remains just out of reach for some.
Now, I often put together these trailers in advance for a couple of reasons. One, it helps summarize the clips in my mind, but also something else emerged out of the way that we run our channel. And that is that all of us together are way smarter than me. You guys actually cracked the code on a lot of this stuff that I bring forth. It's pretty amazing how God has blessed this channel to see on a spiritual realm and to not be deceived by the enemy. So, what is this number 77? Well, I read through your comments, and on this particular case, I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me. So I dug deeper. I prayed about it. I dug deeper. And this is what hit me this morning. I couldn't believe my eyes. 23 and me. And everybody will remember 7 and 7 is actually G and G, which has to do with genotypes. I'll never forget this. When I learned this in school, I think it was high school, and there was a big G and a little g. Do you guys remember that? And this was used to describe genotypes. So GG is 7-7. Let's read this here. 23andMe research. And of course, if you don't know about 23andMe, it is what I believe, a covert attempt at collecting as much DNA as they could, so that they're looking for something, or they're including our DNA in some kind of experiment, is what I believe is going on. Let me check in back in with you guys. Make sure we're up and running. Look, it appears as though we are. Now, let's read about GG. It says 23andMe research participants we looked at who have an AG at around 35% have light eyes, 65% have dark eyes. So there are about 35% of customers with reports that state that they are likely to have dark eyes. They actually have light colored eyes. But for some genotypes, the prediction is much stronger. For example, someone with a GG genotype has a 97% chance of having light eyes. Still not 100%, but much more likely. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is this is all about genotypes and genetics. And in this case, they're talking about eye color. And so this is what I believe they were getting at with this scene here. Now, let's keep going with this, because there's so much more. You know, these little Easter eggs that literally nobody else finds, I believe these are inspired revelations. It reminds me of Jannes and Jambres in the Pharaoh's court, fighting Aaron and Moses. And by the way, something else hit me when the Israelites were in the wilderness and they began worshiping the golden calf. And they were punished with a snake and a staff. which that represents the blue bloods, by the way. But something else hit me this morning. The snake on the staff was God reminding them of the staffs that turned into snakes back in Egypt. And all of this has to do with healing. Remember, they had to stare at it to be healed, but it was a punishment. Who will you believe can heal you? The Most High or the Egyptians, magicians? So back to this. So what would happen is there's basically a witch hunt. And when the community, they would run around looking for people that were coming down with the sick. And there was this signature twitching pinky finger. And that's what gave it away. Couldn't hide from it, right? So they would rapid test somebody. And then their result would come back purple, just like the flowers. And then what they would do is they would wrap them in cellophane and burn their house down with them inside of it. Now, in this scene, Sweet Tooth, his name is Gus, which Gus backwards is S-U-G, of course, which is the first three letters of sugar, which is probably why they call him Sweet Tooth. He hops on a train to get to Colorado to find his mother. And in the train is toilet paper mockery, mocking us all about the toilet paper shortage. Hold on, just got somebody sent me something saying they don't know where I'm at. Some people are still on the other channel, you guys. So whatever you can do to help people find us. I guess this is the end of the week. We're not going to be here on this channel next week. But for some reason, people on the main channel are having a hard time figuring out what's going on with where we're at right now and where we've been for the last week. I tried to give a lot of announcements so that people could see what was going on, but some people are always going to slip through the cracks. So, and I may re-upload all of this week's videos back on the main channel once we get it back as time goes on, because I don't want anyone to miss the information, because then you'll be behind. So let's get back into this. So look at the toilet paper mockery. Now, the clue here, okay, because you always got to read between the lines of this stuff, is that this train is headed to a military compound of the evil generals that run the world, that are willing to do whatever it takes to run any kind of experiments they want, harvest pineal glands and all this other stuff to find a cure, which is pretty much what's happening right now. And it begs the question, was this shortage that we've been going through because the toilet paper was being diverted to government facilities or underground bases? Are they preparing for something? Are they hoarding toilet paper, knowing that they're going to need it underground, right? Remember we saw the whole toilet paper meme in the Tesla video game that we decoded? Remember that? Here it is right here. The video game was called Close to the Sun. And they were stockpiling, and again, this was all about another spamdemic. They're on this ghost ship and everybody's wiped out and they have to figure out what happened. More foreshadowing of what was to come. And they were stockpiling toilet paper. It was in huge amounts of crates. So this is getting very creepy, you guys. Now, just before the spamdemic broke, we had decrypted the iconic scene in iPad Go 2 where the child is inside the egg. We told you how this was the method that they used to culture VCs. Watch. And now, the very same thing we decoded before the spamdemic ever started appears in Sweet Tooth as they're doing these experiments on the eggs. So here's the iconic scene. Again, we were called crazy. That has nothing to do with that, Casey. You're stretching stuff. Well, here it is. This is how they culture them. Watch this. You can see the serpent coming out of the back of the egg. Now they call this candling, and they can look inside to make sure that the injection of whatever they're using to culture is inside of there, that it made it in there, that it's actually growing, so they candle it. But this is how they make them. Now, not all VCs are made this way, but past VCs have been. And I think at least one of the current VCs is made this way, I think. So, this is weird. So, in other words, iPad Go 2 predicted everything we're going through right now. Look at the evil demonic eye behind it. The serpent wrapped around the egg. This is the Orphic egg and so much more. But that's a whole nother show. We already covered all that in the past. That's why you got to always watch every video, because this stuff builds. It builds. We're decoding the matrix. We're figuring out what these people are up to. I think we even talked about these fingers looking like the Washington Monument. Let's keep watching. Now, you're going to hear her talk about culturing in chicken eggs. You're going to hear her talk about fog research. Remember, Fane of Gunction is fog. You have to say it that way, because I don't know what YouTube's going to do. Because Al Gore can't seem to find his rhythm.
Mm-hmm. What is with those damn chickens?
They're part of this project that I've been working on. And then if we incubate just the right ones, then we grow vaccines.
Let me make sure we're up here with you guys. You guys there? Any problems? I'm just going to read through the chat real quick, make sure there's nothing wrong. Okay. Yes, Mork came in an egg. Yes, Mayland. We decoded Mork. He was one of the very first decodes we did in like 2012. I don't know where that video is now, but it was crazy.
And we save a lot of lives.
So then you test the vaccines on the chickens?
No, we need their eggs. So we inject the eggs with the microbes, mostly viruses.
Okay, and what happens if you inject the wrong ones?
All hell breaks loose.
Last call, everyone.
We accidentally made a miracle. And created this.
So there's Sweet Tooth. There's his mom and his dad, but they're really not his mom and his dad. They're just his like adopted parents, right? Because she made him in the lab. The dad had to raise him. And lo and behold, I found another Easter egg. There's always the smiley face. The smiley face strikes again. Now, in this instance, it's inside of this ultrasound readout, but everyone would agree that is a smiley face. And we know what this smiley face means. It's bad.
I have to go back.
Are you?
I need to go back. I need to get all of my research, and I need to burn the place down, because that research and what we've been doing in there in the wrong hands will kill millions of people.
Now, I want you to listen and watch as she describes their genetic experiments. She's using a pretzel. Watch.
What do you know about microbes? Some of them make us sick. That's what we make vaccines from. And some of them make us better. I looked all over the world for one that no one even knew existed. And then if we incubate just the right ones, then we grow vaccines. So we inject the eggs with the microbes, mostly viruses. Just the right one existed. And then
So, she's holding a pretzel. So I Google searched pretzels and genetics. And look what I found. integrating past, present, and future wheat research with pretzels. So what is this article about? Well, they are mapping the genome of the grain wheat. And they're looking at the genes, and they're using this program called Pretzel. And it has something to do with looking at loops and feedbacks and comparing data. And you can actually see why they might have named it Pretzel, because this is how they track this genome project. And all this is more hybridization, more hybrid talk, right? Because wheat is a hybrid. So they know what's going on. Now, these are little Easter eggs that no one else would really think to look at. But when you see her holding a pretzel, know that it means something. Let's keep going with this.
All over the world for one that no one even knew existed. And then if we incubate just the right ones, then we grow vaccines. So we inject the eggs with the microbes, mostly viruses.
Yeah, but why do you think they did it?
Why did they make a deer kid baby in a lab? To see if they could.
I've spent my entire life thinking hybrids were a miracle of nature. Does Fort Smith sound familiar to you?
I was gonna ask you the same thing. They closed it when the virus began to spread.
Rumor was it was where the virus first started.
Now, I turned the volume up because I wasn't sure if you guys could hear that clearly. But she says, why would they make a deer kid boy baby? And he said, because they could. More fog research, right? Now, let's look at this key here, because we did a lot of research on this key. We saw this in several films associated with plague. We exposed this key symbolism. We discovered that Janus has a key. And Janus was the god of gates, opening and closing in times of war and peace. And Janus was the two-faced god of beginnings and endings. He was like an alpha and omega god. And we discovered that Janus, which is also syncretized with Gemini, was probably dump the president. Well, why would we say that? Well, we went through a gateway. We went through a portal when he developed a VC in plain sight that would be forced upon the world. We told you last year that they would force this on every single man, woman, and child. Nobody believed us because people are so wrapped up in the right-left paradigm, him versus the left versus him, and they refused to see it. They believed in a man, and they thought that their savior, Dump, would give them a choice. They couldn't imagine a world, a country, a divided America where they would be shamed for not receiving it. In other words, people fed into their egos and belief in a man rather than God, and allowed the very abomination to be created. And now here we are. It's being used upon us. So, the shocking thing about this scene that you're going to see next is that Sweet Tooth becomes Saint Hubertus. Who is Saint Hubertus? Well, let me put this back in here because it's messing me up. Who is Saint Hubertus? This is him right here. Saint Hubertus Key. Can you see that Saint Hubertus on the left looks a lot like how Sweet Tooth is depicted with the firing flame on the right? They did this on purpose. Now, Saint Hubertus has a key, as I just said. What is up with this key? Well, Saint Hubertus had a key, and it was actually closer to what you might describe as a nail. Now here's where things get dicey and weird and crazy. This is St. Hubertus Key right here. What comes to mind is a crucifixion nail. And what St. Hubertus would do is he would heat up this key, this nail, in a fire, and he would cauterize animal bites on people's skin. And he would do this to cure rabies. Now think about this for a second. Think about the spiritual level on this. Animal and man mixed together. That's what rabies is. It's man acting like an animal. It's on a DNA level. And rabies, of course, is the famed source of the zombie apocalypse. Men turning into animals. So, Sweet Tooth receives this key to an attic. And I believe this is like symbolizes a gate on a spiritual level, just like Janus. The method of combining man with beast. The key to the bottomless pit. Watch.
Thanks. What's it for?
It's for the attic.
Now, there's a subplot going on in the series too, where this woman establishes a sanctuary for hunted hybrids, and she does it at a zoo. And she sends out this radio signal, which has all the hallmarks of 5G Whiz, of course. We'll remember that there was also a radio signal theme in the zombie films like I Am Legend with Will Smith. He used a radio to call out to people to gather them around him, right? Well, here is the radio signal again, and it calls out to Sweet Tooth, and he has very heightened sense of hearing. He hears the signal, which is in this downed aircraft, but the signal ends up being a trap of sorts, and it gets him captured, and it gets his friends hurt. And in fact, everything that Sweet Tooth does seems to endanger his friends. He's careless, he's selfish, all he cares about is finding his mother, and he walks them into trap after trap. Yet, his friends fight for him because of his passion to want to find his origins. Is all this starting to sink in yet? So, Sweet Tooth becomes basically like the devil. Now, we looked at the Cernunnos and Pan aspects to him in part 1 decode that we did. But let's get to this lady on the flyer. Now, she was on to the doctor and his sick wife. She's like a, you know, she pretty much knew that the wife was sick. She was very nosy. And she ends up calling them out, threatening to expose them. And as she's walking away to go tell everyone so that they can wrap them in cellophane and light them on fire, their horse kicks her and knocks her out and takes her out. She's gone. So the people in the neighborhood are looking for her. They're like, where is she? So they send out these flyers. Now, of all of the heights that they could put on her, this woman is not 5'7". She's like 5'3" or 5'4". But yet they put on here 5'7". What do you think that means? 5G Whiz, of course. So they, in this next scene, they airdrop these flyers by sanctuary, so that people can find the sanctuary. They airdrop these flyers so that the hybrids can find their way to the sanctuary, all the survivors. But then the sanctuary also ends up being a trap because they're all gathered together, and then the bad men, they call them the last men, the general finds them, and it's easy pickings because they're all in one spot. Look at how prominent the radio frequency part of the flyer is. There's a reason for that. Okay? Because this is all about a signal of some kind. Now the frequency, and I wasn't able to decrypt what this number on the frequency actually means, but that's the frequency, okay? 28.3550. So now that we got all these eyes looking at this, let me know what you think that this frequency could mean, this radio frequency. Does it have something to do with Saturn? Does it have something to do with, there's a million different things that this could be. Okay, I don't know. I hadn't quite decrypted that yet, but there you go. Now what you're going to see next is all of these ape appearances or monkeys. You're going to see it 3 separate times in proximity to this lady that runs the sanctuary. And what this is, it's a direct reference to the planet of the apes and all the work we did on that. And what was that about? Well, during polio, the stickers that they gave out to everybody were tainted with simian virus. It got a lot of people sick. Some claimed that it had caused other much more serious conditions. These were the claims at the time. Now all that's up for debate now, but that's what was said during that time in the 1960s. It was an actual simian meaning monkey, sickness that came out of tainted stickers. And in fact, many of these older VCs were made from animals, sheeps. Actually, the old rabies sticker was actually made from sheep brains. Can you see a problem with that? Isn't that where you can get prions and stuff from the brains of cattle and sheep? Others were manufactured out of monkey kidneys. And, of course, chickens, as we just showed you. And I'm wondering if this will be the catalyst that mixes man with beast. There's monkey 1.
Hours became days. Days became weeks. Amy became a prisoner. Ah, sweet solitude. That's all Amy Eden thought she wanted.
Monkey number 2.
Nature doesn't want us back. We never gave her a good
Monkey number 3.
reason to keep us around in the first.
Now, this is Mother Amy, and she tries to repel this evil general with these 4th of July fireworks. Well, 4th of July is coming up very quickly, 7/4. And on that date, Bo Jiven wants 70% of us to get stickers by then, right? Now, of course, they've been hinting at 4th of July for a very, very long time. Now, we decrypted what July 4th means, or 4/7 or 7/4. It is the middle generations of human history. It's the 2,000-year period that covered 42 generations from Abraham to Jesus. And the average generation, you do the simple math, is 47 years. 42 generations, 2,000 years, yields 47-year average generation. So, what does 47 really mean? It represents the midpoint, or the halfway point Okay. Well, Casey, that's a stretch. So why was Building 7 of the Center of Trade opened at the halfway point in the Heb calendar of the year 47, and it was 47 stories tall, and it was opened in the 14th year, and then 14 years later they all came down? It's the midpoint. That's what 47 means. That was just one example proving the midpoint of that number. Now, it's interesting too that the 4th of July falls at almost exactly the halfway point through the year. I think July 2nd is the exact halfway point, but we could all agree that the 4th of July falls almost exactly halfway through the year. Now, you're probably in shock about these revelations, but understand this does not come from me. These are gifts of the Holy Spirit. God wants you to see on the spiritual level so that you're not deceived. So that you don't believe the official story about what happened on Blind 11, because I just spelled out to you what happened. That something very dark happened on a spiritual level to mock the Most High and His Son. But God shall not be mocked. And we're proving that today because we've exposed them. They're the ones getting mocked now because we're exposing what they did based on a spiritual eyes to see. This is why this stuff is so important to understand and learn. If you just want to ignore this and think it's not important, you're allowing the mockery to happen. When you expose darkness, you unmock the mockery. Does that make sense? Now, before I get into the chat, because that's pretty much close to the end of this, let's play this out because you're going to see her launch some fireworks off here.
First place.
Remember iPetco 2? There you go. And these posters say combat the sick, and it's all eyes. Eyes are portals. They're making sense now? Gates, portals. We've gone through some kind of portal, and I was telling you guys this the day that Dump announced warp speed. I go, you guys, we're warping through a portal. Something is going to change. And here we are in a new world, the new normal. We have passed through a portal. Things will never, ever be the same. But hallelujah, because that means the end is closer. Now let me get into an update on this story before I come into the chat here about these Texas nurses who are suing their employers because of the sticker mandate. And it appears as though they have officially been laid off or suspended. Now, for all the talk about how they pumped up the nurses as heroes, remember all the hero talk? Now, all of a sudden, they're just going to throw them under the bus. Why? Just because you don't want to get a sticker? This tells you that they don't really care about the nurses, because if they did, they would allow these nurses to do what they want. But this is where this is where the powers that be expose themselves, because they just threw these nurses under the bus. Oh, sorry, you're suspended. Even though, if you go and talk to somebody, they will tell you, oh, you have a choice. You don't have to get it. Everything's fine. No, it's not fine, because you lose your job. See? So this is the update on the nurses. I hope they win. I do wish they would have stood up earlier. Way back in the beginning when they knew something wasn't right. But at least they're standing up now. Now, tomorrow's show, I have some brand new information on Gizwell. This is going to be a fun show. I'll spill the beans now. It's so crazy. I schedule these shows, and then like other channels will like grab it and look, that's fine. They can do that. But then you guys have already like heard it somewhere else. So I try to hold these a little bit close to my vest because I want to give you the correct perspective on this. Okay. Now, what is the big secret? Well, they started a channel. Wow. Now, this is her brother. They only got 127 subscribers. But we're going to look at these videos. Look at nobody is buying it. We're not going to play any of this, but really tomorrow we're going to read in the comments section. We're going to identify trolls because there are people that just are paid to make it look like they really want to give her a chance. But basically, that's what we're going to cover tomorrow. They actually have now social media sites, pages. They got a Twitter, and they're trying to do PR. They're trying to make her look like a victim, like basically she didn't have a choice, and why won't we believe her? Like the whole Me Too thing. Oh, forget about the Me Too of the victims. Oh, they don't matter. We're supposed to believe her, right? So that's what's going to be tomorrow. And then Monday, we should be back on the main channel. Let's go into the chat for a little bit. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Getting to the bottom of Sweet Tooth. I almost put it down. I watched like the first episode. I'm like, I don't know about this. This is ridiculous. And then it just started building. And then the episode 3 where they were talking about the secret sauce, I was like, oh boy. Wow. So, yes, we got to expose these people. Thanks, Redeemed by Yaw. Thanks, Lisa. Well, what else do we have in here? There's Dennis. Already going door to door asking if you want the sticker. Crazy, right? Nobody would ever thought this was going to happen a year ago. Remember? Hindsight is always 2020, isn't it? And look at hindsight is the year 2020. And we all known, you know, really what should have happened is the people on the right, all the letter that shall not be named crowd should have stood up and said, what are you doing? Dump, don't make that. Because what if you don't win? You see? And he was already backing the car out of the garage toward the end of his presidency anyway. He was already double speaking. Then he ended up getting the sticker himself. Remember all that? And then afterwards, after he lost, he was telling people they should really go get it. So there you go right there. And now here we are, and it's basically going to be forced on you, and you can lose your job if you don't get it. Makes me so mad. So mad. And all of the grief we took from this. We were just attacked over and over again. People unsubscribe. I'm unsubscribing. All you do is talk about dump. I go, well, the problem is he's making something that we're not going to be able to walk back. You guys, we're not going to be able to walk this back. Man, fired up this morning. Sometimes you have to do that. Whew. Life in Shack says the J-Dubs are coming to give you the sticker. Where'd you hear that? My mom's a J-Dub, and she hasn't said that they're encouraging them to go get it yet. But I could be, you know, if you got some information, fill us in. I've been on her. I've been like, Mom, what are they telling you? Don't do it. For now, she's not going to go do it. But, you know, these religions have a lot of power over their people. They actually believe that the people in control, they should be listening to. And if they say go do it, they'll go do it. They'll make it a thing where they'll say, oh, you're disobeying God or something. It's crazy. Man. So what else do we have? Thanks for modding, Tom. There's Marcy. Whatever happened to good? Father will always provide. Yes, Maylin. Oh, okay. Thanks. Thanks, Life in the Shack. Yep, exactly. People still getting stickers even after they see. Oh, look at this. Remember back, let's say December of 2020, right before this thing came to market, right? And V-Day, let's call it V-Day. And remember how people were like, called us absolutely crazy that we could think that a VC could harm anybody? Remember that? Like not even one person. They wouldn't even concede that one person, that this was completely safe and effective. We should go back and look. Hindsight is 2020. What were they saying? What were the powers that be saying? They were saying this was completely safe and effective. Well, now what's the message? Well, there's an acceptable risk. There's an acceptable amount of people that will be harmed. There's an acceptable amount. And now they're backpedaling. Well, back then, had they told the truth that, look, hey, you know, there's going to be quite a few people that have some kind of reaction. Remember, back then, they wouldn't even concede that you would even feel anything from it. And now, and then they backpedal and they're like, oh, you're just going to feel like you have the FLU. And then they went from that to, oh, some other things could happen to you. So when is this going to stop? When is the backpedaling going to stop? When are these people are going to shoot straight and tell us the truth up front? Because here's the unfair advantage that they have. Just like Fraud Chi and the WUTANG lab. He's backpedaling. Had he told us the truth up front, maybe there wouldn't be half of America that got the sticker. Maybe there'd only be 20%. Maybe there wouldn't be all this pressure to make it mandatory. Maybe you wouldn't lose your job if you didn't get it. You see, they're being dishonest. They're not telling us the truth up front. Now, we told you the truth. We told you the dangers, some of the dangers. We were talking about neuropathic. We were talking about all these things. Remember, we were talking about the zombie apocalypse. We were talking about I Moon the Nation or I Moon the City. We're saying that differently. For those of you that don't know, we have to speak in code here. So we say I Moon the City. That's what I want to do. So, but they won't tell you. And it's weird. Some channels can talk all about these things that are happening to people and they stay fine, but then we caught a strike and we got kicked off our main channel. So whatever we're saying must be real. Now, what else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and pop off here. We'll be back on there tomorrow looking at Gizwell's brother and how he's now backing her up and trying to get her out of the locker room. And so we'll cover that tomorrow. I love each and every one of you. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.